Good morning. I feel like a director. This is my assistant producer here. We're very happy with the mood this year. So why am I here? Well, I actually have a show on HGTV, Going Yard. First season aired last summer. Second season starts airing again in April. And what I'm here to do is try to inspire people to get out into their backyards and not be settled with a backyard that just has grass and some flowers, but to give entertaining spaces, fun areas you can bring all your family and friends over, or if you like to read a book, a nice relaxing place to sit in the backyard and read a book. So that's what I'm here to do, is inspire, get people to turn off their TVs and go outside and get their hands dirty.
Great. And ironically, we have a garden that talks all about that. Our backyard play garden is encouraging parents with their children to do fun activities in the yard. And just about everything you said is a goal that we have in Disney as well. So once again, I think we can see the tie between HGTV and Walt Disney World is just natural.
Made it work together.
Yep.
Plus, I mean, who doesn't want to hang out in District for a weekend? Back, I live in the Northeast, and we just got over a foot of snow. And luckily enough, I made it out. It took us about 2 hours to de-ice the plane, but we made it down here. And now, I'm in the middle of spring. I get to walk around in a t-shirt and look at all the beautiful flowers that are here. And it just makes me so envious that I don't live someplace warmer where I can see spring happen earlier.
I don't think they have any de-icing stuff at OIA.
No, I don't think so at all. Well, if you have questions for either of us about anything.
Who has a gardening problem they want solved? Here we go.
Would you mention 2 or 3 things that are low cost that someone can do in their backyard? We would all love to have the dream backyard, but obviously budget-wise, probably not going to happen. So what would you recommend to folks? Just simple things that are more low cost.
That's a great question, because what I always tell people, last thing of my presentation is maintenance. And you don't want to give yourself a backyard that you won't be able to maintain. So it's good to plan ahead like that. So I love to be outside. I love to entertain at night. So a fire pit is a very simple and easy thing to do. You can literally dig a hole, line it with bricks, put a couple stones around it, and then line the whole area with pea stones. Put down a nice weed fabric, so that way you don't worry about weeds as much. Put down pea stone, which is $24 for a ton of pea stone, around the whole fire pit, so that way you don't have to worry about the fire spreading or anything. And you have a very cost-effective area we can entertain. Throw some nice beach chairs around that fire pit, and at night, sit there, have a glass of wine, and entertain your friends. That's my favorite thing to do.
And to his point, it's funny you said, the maintenance part. I've had people say that I want to have a nice backyard, and how much time a week do you want to spend in your yard weeding? Well, I don't really like weeding. You're not going to have a really nice yard. They go hand in hand. So you have to consider that when you make your decisions. But one thing we always talk about is one thing can you do from a plant standpoint. Fire pits are great. My wife's been on me forever to get one. But
I can help you out.
Yeah, thank you. 2 or 3 containers of color. Easy to do. It doesn't even have to be a fancy terracotta pot. You got a couple of galvanized buckets hanging around your place. I think we've become really good at demonstrating that. Go down and get $3, $5, $10 worth of soil, half flat bedding plants, some fertilizer, and you're in business. And the nice thing is, you don't intend them to last forever. That's cheap enough that if you're just having a dinner party, you could do that for your guests. And if they die a week later, not too bad, but you still make your place look nice when it's important when you're having people over.
I even tell people in the Northeast that do the same thing, get those pots, but put herbs in there. So that way during the summer you can have the herbs outside, and then in the winter you bring those, put them right near a window. They'll survive inside. You have some nice color inside as well, so you can kind of transition them in to out, and your herbs all year round.
And in Florida, in the summertime when we're getting a lot of rains, most herbs that we use are Mediterranean in origin. They don't like wet feet. So a lot of times containers are the best way to grow herbs in Florida during the summer.
I have a 6-year-old, and she's starting to get interested in plants, and they're learning about the plant cycles and things like that. Do you have any suggestions? I was thinking along the lines of a container garden, just for as far as she doesn't have to bend down and all that other stuff. Do you have any suggestions as to plants and things that I should use or look for?
For a 6-year-old, I'm thinking food, butterflies, Definitely do the butterfly plant. You're obviously in Florida.
Yes.
Get some milkweed, keep an eye on it. As soon as you see some, and my wife has a horticulture degree, but she still calls them worms. As soon as you see the worms or caterpillars crawling, get a jar, 2-gallon soda container cut in half, put some foliage in there, a stick, keep feeding it until you have a chrysalis form in your house, and then your daughter will get to see the butterfly.
Oh, that's
That
it.
right there, do that one thing, and they have that experience that and get to release the butterfly outside. My experience, that child is now hooked on gardening. And of course, I've found is the way to get children to eat things that a lot of kids won't, have them grow it. If they grow it, they see it growing, they're a lot more likely to eat it. That would be the way I would go for a child that young.
I remember I was 6, 7, 8, and my neighbor behind me, Mr. Johnson, he had a huge garden. And one day I stole one of his tomatoes, and instead of punishing me, he brought up some tomato plants, taught me how to garden, and I was hooked immediately. Just to be able to pick your own tomato and just the smell of it and to cut it up and eat it, just an amazing thing. And right away, Mr. Johnson, bless him, he didn't yell at me, he just taught me how to garden, and I was hooked ever since.
Thank you.
I had a question going back to the Florida-based plants. A lot of times gardening shows and things are based toward people in the other 9/10 of the country. Do you have any tips for Florida plants that are easy to grow and will last through the summers?
It's going to be a loaded question. When I came here, I didn't know how to do anything. And I've gardened in places my whole life. Florida's a totally different beast. You'd probably be shocked to hear me say this. This is the worst place I can think of in America to garden. Not toughest anyway. We're too cold to go tropical. Thank goodness just last weekend we got down to 31 here. So we can't grow like they do in South Florida. But we don't have enough chill hours. A lot of plants have to have a certain number of hours below 40 degrees or they basically start dying. Slowly, it might take 3 or 4 years. You go to Tallahassee, you've got a whole different plant palette than you have here. So we're right in the zone where it's tough. That being said, there are a lot of plants that you can use here. You got to look for natives or from things in other parts of the world that are close in this climate. Amazing, a lot of plants that do well here are Japanese, or Photocarpus, and things like that. But we do have a small plant palette. There's no getting around that, and that's what we struggle with at Disney. There's so few shrubs that we can use. I don't know, did I answer your question? I kind of...
Yeah, I have no familiarity with plants down here, so if I do go to a different climate and I'm worried about what to plant, what I always do and I always tell people is drive around to your neighborhoods, to your forests, see what has grown well for many years, take a picture of that, go to your local nursery, find out what that is, find out what's growing well in your area naturally.
And I think what you have to do here, at least what I do at my house and what we do at Walt Disney World, the foundation that we use is pretty common. I mean, when you walk Epcot, you may see 6, 8, maybe 10 different shrubs, and that's it. Because that's about all that'll grow for us. You put your I know you have all the yews, and you can't grow any of those.
There's all that stuff out there.
No. And then use your seasonal plants as highlighted. In my yard, it's Bahia, but we have about 25 or 30 terracotta pots all around. And so we're always changing those out. Now, we don't mind spending a lot of time in the garden. But even if it's only 2 pots or a small thing of bedding plants or 1 or 2 hanging baskets, use those or your pot of herbs. I mean, if everyone doesn't have a couple of pots of herbs in their yard, I mean, you're missing out. Because it's not like you need a quarter pound when you cook. You don't need it. They're accents. So, don't try to grow things that aren't going to grow and concentrate on that 10% that really pops.
Thank you.
Is there an advantage to terracotta pots over like the cheaper plastic ones that I see at Lowe's?
Good. I mean, terracotta allows the water to go in it, and plastic obviously doesn't allow it to breathe as much. That's the one thing I see.
There's some good-looking terracotta's just pretty.
Yeah. It ages well. It's got that turns like the white orange. And
where most of your artificial pots will, over time, if you degrade or break them down, they'll fall apart.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure you don't just use terracotta, but think outside the box. I grow my tomatoes in half whiskey barrels. When you're thinking containers, you don't just have to go terracotta. And I don't think now some designers. I'm not a designer, but I'm a gardener. I don't mind mixing different container types. Some people will tell you, you got to use all terracotta. They're probably right, but at my house, we don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've used wine barrels, I've used copper cutters, because it's copper cutter. It's beautiful, and the great thing with that is, you have the copper cutter chains that go between them. So I have tiers of them as a hanging garden, and that's a beautiful thing to use. So I mean, a container is anything that can hold water, you can turn into a container garden, and it's basically just you walk around and look for something that looks beautiful. I mean, outside in the water gardens here, it looks like they have a floating tire that they've turned into a floating garden. So I mean, it's basically just think outside the box, or in this case, think inside the box.
And there is one, in my opinion, huge disadvantage of a terracotta pot. First of all, they're expensive. I mean, even the rolled rims, by the time you get to this big, is going to be $15, $20, $30. Your decorative ones that are bigger, so you put a plant in it, unless you're talking bedding plants, say you put a small shrub, and we get a 45-mile-an-hour wind, and it blows down on your driveway, and now it's broken.
And they get heavy if you want to move them around. Once they're full of dirt and plant, and if it's wet, then it's hard to move. So it's between the expensive and the ability to move it. And then if you do get a frost, not as much here obviously, but they tend to crack. So
They do?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
one of my front porches cracked right now.
Yeah, that's not a problem here,
Yeah.
but definitely in other places.
Yeah.
In terms of, kind of two parts, what we did. There's a lot of people out there that watch the shows, things like that, and they see something that looks awesome and great, but they're beginners, and they might not know. What are some, in the case of gardening, in the case of redesigning, what are some of the common mistakes you see? I mean, a lot of these people are beginners, and they might not know what's going on.
Never started.
Really?
Or doing too much. I've seen people that are like, I can do it all, and they start doing their own stone patio, and they all start doing their own this, that, and they have bit up way too much, and they have 4 projects in their backyard, and then it looks even worse than when they started. So I say, like, if you're going to start small. What you really like to do in the backyard. If you like to cook, then start with a small herb garden. If you want vegetables, start with a small vegetable garden. If you really want a fire pit, start with that. But just start with one small thing, get that done, enjoy that, and then that will get you to want to be out there even more.
Should it also go by difficulty, like maybe try something easier, instead of like jumping right into, like let's say you want to...
Yeah, don't start building a pergola your first day out there.
Yeah.
You know what, I need some shade back here. How do you get the posts? We'll put them in the ground,
Exactly.
Start mixing some cement, and let's get going.
Nightmare scenario.
Yeah, start with a simple project first.
Right.
I mean, the great thing about a fire pit is you just stack stones in a circle, and you're done. I mean, no right way or wrong way to do it. It might look better or worse some ways, but at the end of the day, you can still contain a fire.
Exact same principles with gardening. Start small and build on the success. Because if you're successful, even in small, that's why we keep going back to containers with herbs. That's, I think, that would be my advice to anyone who's container with herbs, or what we call an edible landscape, where you have herbs, but you also have color. Two pots this big. Keep those alive for 3 months, and you're accomplished stuff. Okay, this isn't so hard. Now you might move on to something bigger.
Right.
Or you may not. That may be, you might be like, gosh, boy, these stack of water seasons every day. I don't want any more than this. Because, gardening it's a commitment. Heather Will Brown, one of my peers who made me an interview over the years, she has a great saying: a plant in a container is like a bird in a cage. You got to feed it and water it. And if you don't, it's going to die. So to me, that's a great analogy. If you don't want to do that, try to grow something in your landscape where you don't have to take care of it almost daily.
Any other questions?
Since you guys garden for work, do you also garden at home?
Yeah, I mean, I love to grow my own vegetables. I have a lot of container gardens in my yard. I have a fire pit in my yard. I like to be outside, and I like to have low maintenance because at the end of the day, after I'm working in other people's yards all day, the last thing I want to do is come home and have to weed and have to take care of everything. So I make my yard very low maintenance. A lot of mulch, a lot of pea stone, a lot of pavers. So that way I don't have to take care of it as much.
And I find that over the years, my landscape has probably gotten higher maintenance. When I was a gardener here, actually working in the garden 8 hours a day, I'd be pretty tired. Once I got the roles I've had the last 10 or 12 years, then I do miss it. But I think gardeners generally, like you said, he started young. I was liking the garden. I don't think many of us, there's probably some who choose the profession. A lot of us, though, it's what we want to do. And a lot of us, I don't think always were doing it, but when we finally fell into it, it's like, oh, this is kind of, okay, this is natural, this is what I like to do. I like doing it, I might as well make it a profession. And we probably do the same thing. When I go on vacation, you get the map out. Where's some gardens? You know,
I always try to take ideas from everywhere you go, because every place you go, there's something different that they do. You know, Florida's no different. So here, you're walking around, I'm like, ooh, I can steal this idea. You know, that's what you got to do, even in your backyard. Walk around, see other people's yards, and steal their ideas.
I've been instructed not to use the word steal by my legal department. But, no, I don't. We always joke and say that there's no original idea. There's no new ideas in gardening. I mean, they've been gardening.
No new ideas in anything.
No, since the days of Babylon.
Yeah.
They had some pretty cool gardens then. It's finding something you don't know.
Yeah.
And importing it. I don't know, Debbie, I don't know if she's still here, if there's any element in the garden, the Flower and Garden Festival, that we can claim we thought of this. And no one else has ever done this before us. There may be, but I don't know.
Mickey Mouse Topiary.
Yeah.
That's only because it's trademark issues. Or someone would have done it.